No, we alcoholics are very negative people. We think negatively. We think negatively, and we're motivated by negative things. You know what I mean? Therefore, what we have done, we have let these three people stop us from doing the rest of this list. You know what I mean? Now, you see, by putting those over here, we can start over here. You know? And then chances are, if we start over here and see the real benefit and relief of doing these, time we get through with these, the chances are we want to try to work on the laters a little bit. You know what I mean? And after the laters, you'd be surprised, we're going to be working on the maybes. And one of these days it's going to be so much fun, we're going to have to go get some of them nevers and work on them. But at least it will give us a way to get started. And that's the only thing an alcoholic needs is a start. And once we will never get the benefit out of the step until you take it, until you start working on it. It says most alcoholics owe money. I was glad to see that. I thought I was unique, and we do, And if you owe somebody money, making amends means to set right or wrong. You go up and tell the person, I'm sorry. Well, he wants to know where is my money. Sorry's all right, but they ain't really making amends. And our book tells us we got ways to do this. There is nothing that's impossible. You can go to this person, you can set up, the book says you can strike another deal. You can tell him, you might, why you've been slow, and you owe this obligation. And of course, we alcoholics, we would like to, in our grandiose ways, we want to really hide from the guy, walk around with shame and guilt and get drunk again until we get it all and go in there where we can throw it all down and walk out. Here's your damn money, That's the way we like to do it, See, but that is not what the program's all about. It's all about putting our lives, putting ourselves in the right perspective. Maybe we have to humble ourselves, and this is the way it should be. Maybe we have to go to this person and say, well, I can't, I don't have it, but I can pay you a little bit at a time until I get this done. And I think some of us, a lot of times, what we owe seems like a pretty good sum. It does. In some cases, I know it runs a pretty good sum. But still, in regards to what we can do, we can start on that in some small way and deal with it. One of the greatest things I heard in the last couple of years was a friend of mine, Charlie and I was in Tulsa. And this guy paid off his amends here a couple of years ago. And he had been sober 29 years when he finished paying the life stuff. But he made a deal, and he's paid on it for 29 years, a little at a time until he got it paid off. So it can be done. But I think, in those 29 years, it wasn't paid, but he sure had a great relief. He wasn't looking back over his shoulder. He didn't have that guilt and remorse, because when you once pay that first payment, that frees you of that. So we can take care of these things, and if we use the big book and in the context of the book. And it says, it talks about that some of us have committed criminal offenses, and it tells us how to do with that. If we go through the book, the book gives us great detail on how to deal with different types of amends. And there's prayer in this step. Willingness is a key. Step 8 is when we make the list. Then this process enables us to become willing, and this is the freedom. The freedom is not so much in making amends, but the freedom in this process to become willing. Once we make this list and become willing to make amends, then we're really free in our minds, and that's the process of the step. Step 9 says after we become willing, then we make the amends wherever possible. Now, if we're willing, we're ready to do this. We're free. Now, wherever possible, we make the amends. Now, I didn't say that we go out and try to do all of them at once, because this is a realistic program. Wherever possible, we make these amends as we see these people or whenever the thing is right. And I think that this is God working within our lives, because only God can set that up and guides our life. Only God knows what's going on within me and what's going on within the individual. I don't go out on my own and do this. Wherever possible, I make each amend. Now, he does tell me when not to make them. Yeah? He doesn't tell me when to. He tells me where to and when not. When to make these amends would injure other people, I can't do this. But I'm free because I'm willing. I'm free anyway. So there are two rules that we have to apply to making these amends. Wherever possible, and when other people are injured, we can't do it. So, but the key thing, we can go on and on and on, because we're living with these things. And I think that we alcoholics, I know I have some burdens in this area. There are some things that wherever possible have not come about. There are some amends I still carry that would injure other people if I were to make them. But they don't bother me. I'm free, no shame or no guilt over them, because I'm willing to do it. You know, we alcoholics, we like to have a clean slate. We'd like to have all of them off so we could have a clean slate, but I think the way I work, I'd probably have some more on the list, you know. So I think, you know, the pain or maybe of carrying these things, it helps me remember, and I think one of the most important things on the face of this earth tonight is people. I mean, you know, at one time in my life, I said, I didn't feel like that. I used to feel, man, if they get rid of these damn people, I'd be all right. People wasn't my problem. But I think somewhere in our lives, we live with people, living with each other, and this is a fantastic part of living and getting along with people. With all their problems, with our problems too, as individuals. That the great thrill that we can live on the face of this earth with people. And the more people we have in our lives, the better our lives are, the more successful we are, the more people we have in our lives. You know, alcoholics don't have a lot of people in their lives. They really don't. I remember, in my particular case, I was sitting out here in the state hospital almost 25 years ago, and there wasn't no crowd there to see me. Really, I never did, you know. I was there 30 days, and I had one visitor, I believe. And I kid the guys over the Serenity House. I said, that's one thing we don't really have a big problem with. We don't have a sign up there that said, visiting hours from 2 to 3. We don't have a crowd trying to get in there anyway. That's very strange. You know, you go out here to the hospital and you see people trying to get in there to see sick. Well, that's one thing about the disease of alcoholism. It's different. You know, you have another illness, a heart condition, you go out to the hospital, you see flowers, you see people trying to get in there and see the sick people. Alcoholics don't get flowers. They don't get well cards. They get a lot of get dead cards, you know. What have we done with the people in our lives? You know, we really never evaluate that, you know. Where are the people in our lives? You know what I mean? What have we done? Now, I think 8 and 9 is all about rebuilding that circle. You know what I mean? To rebuilding our relationship with people, and knowing that this is very essential. It's we're no bigger than the people around us and the people in our lives. And as we go out, our book tells us to set right these wrongs. And as they go along each day, that we develop meaningful relationships and bring people back into our lives. It says, you know, although these repatriations take numerous forms, there are some principles which we find guiding. Remind ourselves we decided to go to any length to find a spiritual experience. We ask that we be given strength to do the right direction and do the right thing. Throughout here we have prayer. And it tells about other things. It talks about, you know, we've had sex outside of marriage, and these things, and how do we handle these things, and other people involved. You know, there's a lot of different things that go on in making these amends, and our book deals with each and every one of these. It says the changes we have domestic problems. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we don't care, and I love this. We doubt if we are in this respect, that alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. So what? Just about like, we're just about like other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. Sure do. After a few years with an alcoholic, the wife becomes worn out and resentful. Boy, he selected these words just right. And uncommunicative. Boy, she sure does. She communicates, but we don't like the way. How could she be anything else? He commences to look around nightclubs for their equivalent for something besides liquor. Oh, I'm telling you. Perhaps he is having a secret and exciting affair with a girl who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand. I love Bill's humor. A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times. Just does. And regardless of where we at, when these things cross our mind, we're going to feel remorseful. Especially if married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. And this is usually the case of most of the guys who come to Alcoholics Anonymous who still got their wives with them. We're very blessed with the people we have with us, a part of our lives when we come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I hear as we talk about this, that if they hang in here that long, it's really something. But what do we do about that? It says, sometimes our book doesn't give us any rules. It gives us a way to use our mind. And all the time it's talking about God directing our lives. Because remember, in step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our life for care of God. So we have that directions in this step too. We listen for that. And we will use that guidance in making these amends. If we are sure our wife should know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. Not all the time. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her the details? Undoubtedly, we should admit our faults. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right. We have no right to involve another person. And that's, I think it tells us how to handle these situations. Like we say, if she's suspicion, it'd be better to let her be suspicion than give her the facts, Because this ain't the idea we want to withhold this. Because all this maybe do is hurt her more and never really improve the situation. So what we just say, we let God be, we have to use our heads and judge these situations. And sometimes he said we walk carefully through these things. But the key thing is willing. And maybe this is where the wherever possible come, because, as God directs our lives, as these wounds begin to heal and as time passes, it will, maybe we have to live with this maybe for 6 months. Maybe we have to live with this for a year until the relation and the bonds, until the thing heals. And maybe there will be a time, of healing where these things are possible. Maybe they will be possible. But during this period of time, we would have to live with it. And if we were willing to do it when the time comes, then we will be free. So we see there's some guidance and some time involved. And the key thing is to pray and ask God for guidance. And then when the time comes, and for us to make these amends, and it is possible, and we don't make them, then we're going to have problems. We will have problems. Sometimes if we make them too soon, we'll have problems. And if we wait too long, we're going to have problems. So we're going to have some difficulties in these areas. But the key thing is to be willing to do it. And as we continue, it tells us, we use prayer throughout this. It says each night on page 82, each night to pray about it, have the other one's happiness in mind. On page 83 of our book, it says, so clean house with the family each morning in meditation. That our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. See, there's prayer in every step after step 3. This is not a do-it-yourself program. And surely we need God's directions and guidance in taking some steps like 8 and 9, because each one of them take directions, each one of them take great insight, and surely we as people, surely we're no expert on human nature with the mess we've made in our lives. And if we haven't developed our spiritual lives, we're going to make a mess, and we don't really go out here on our own and do step 8 and 9, because we'll make a greater mess than we had before. But as we begin to go through this list and meet these things, we'll find that our relationship with people will grow. We'll clear up the relationships of the past. And I think that, as life goes, we see people come back into our lives. And surely in my life, I think one of the most valuable things in life, I thank God every day, for Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thank God for the people in my life, all the people in my life. When I think back about 25 years ago, that in 30 days, no one thought enough to come to see me. That's just where I was. But through the program and through the growth, and people have come back into my life, and that's one of the most valuable things in my life is people. But once we get that done, we have come to the promises of the big book, and I love the promises. The promises come as a result of the steps. The promises are not just, promises mean work. When I was a kid, I used to get up every morning. And in my days, in my time, most of the young people wouldn't remember that, don't know anything about that, but in my time of growing up, the whole experience of the week was going to the movies. See, we didn't have TV. You can't imagine that. I know you said, but we didn't have TV. All you did is, you got to go to the movie on Saturday. And if you didn't go to the movie on Saturday, when I was a kid, you wasn't hitting on nothing. You didn't know nothing unless you went to the movie. See, we got 2 movies. We got the cowboy picture, this gangster picture, and the cereal, and all that for 15 cents, And if you were lucky enough to get a quarter, man, you could get a bag of popcorn for a nickel and a whole bunch of candy for another nickel, and you was in heaven for about 3 or 4 hours on Saturday. So every Saturday morning I'd get up, my mother would always make promises. She said, Joe, I'm going to let you go to the picture show this evening. She had a bunch of steps for me to take before. I think she had more than 12, You're going to whitewash the fence back in those days, boy. You're going to cut the grass, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do, and then I'm going to let you go to the picture show. Promises always come as a result of some action. Now, after 9 simple steps, we got this thing in some resemblance of where the promises are going to be met. We got a long ways to go. No, we're not perfect, but we got our lives in order already to where we don't need to drink alcohol after 9 steps. You don't have to be. So he said, in a few months you can do this. A few months, our book said, this personality change can take place as a result of these steps. You don't have to be very well not to drink. In fact, you got to be pretty sick to take the drink. You got to be pretty sick to take something that's killing you. That's insanity. So in these few steps, we got things in order. Now it says, we have been painstaking with this phase of our development before we are halfway through. Now we're not through, we're just about halfway through. We're going to have some other steps. We're going to have steps 10, 11, and 12 that deal with this other dimension, and this is unlimited. There's no circle around that. We can grow and grow for the rest of our lives. And that's what we're going to go into next week. But here, after 9 steps, we have the promises. If we have been painstaking with this phase of our development already, it says we know a new freedom and a new happiness. Amen. I'm spiritually well, I'm mentally well, and I can look people in the eye. We will not regret the past. I wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see that our experience can benefit others. That feeling of usefulness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us and we're not do for ourselves. Are these exaggerated promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us. Sometimes quickly in the spiritual experience, that's real quick. Sometimes slowly, and that's in the spiritual awakening. It takes place over months. They will always materialize if we work for them. Now, for many years, we drank alcohol. As I said earlier, I had problems in my life, and all my life I've hunted for a sense of ease and comfort. I don't know why. All my life. All my life as a kid, I remember pursuing, I just couldn't wait till Christmas. I'll be happy. It was 4th of July, but I'll be happy Christmas, When Christmas comes, it wasn't that much. Maybe, and then after Christmas was over, I said, boy, I'll be happy when we have the picnic 4th of July. But just for a moment, just for a moment. Maybe that's what life is all, maybe that's the pursuit of it, But all my life, I searched for a sense of ease and comfort. Somewhere along the line, I found alcohol. And I remember my first drinks. I remember my first experience with alcohol. And when I found alcohol, for the first time in my life, I found that sense of ease and comfort. It came to once to taking a few drinks of alcohol. God, man, where's this stuff been? And then my book said that I pursued that great illusion. I chased that great illusion of relief, the gates and sanity of death. Alcohol, instead of being my friend, it turned on me and become my greatest enemy. So I had to take that out. And then there I was right back to the same place, back to self. So the program said take out self and put God back in, and then go back to work on yourself. And then clear your relationship with other people. Now here, after working these steps, I found out I have this sense of ease and comfort that I always pursued in alcohol. It talks about it right. I know serenity, I know peace, I know a new freedom. And I get this out of alcohol, and I don't have to take a drink, and I don't have to go to jail anymore, and I don't have to lose my job. And boy, this is great, man. This is great. And you don't have to go down to the store and get little half-pint bottles, and the man don't look at you funny, And I'll tell you, this is what this program is all about. Now, I love to read these, and we read them over again and tell what I was really doing in the early days. And this is when I took a drink when I was young, and alcohol made me feel good and did everything for me and didn't do anything bad to me in the early days. I ain't talking about the last drink. I'm talking about many years ago. Many years ago, in the first early years of my drinking, when I took a drink, I knew a new freedom and a new happiness. When I took a drink, I did not regret the past. I wished to shut the door on it. When I took a drink of alcohol, I could comprehend the word serenity, and I knew peace. When I took a drink, no matter how far down the scale I had gone, I could see how my experience could benefit others. Boy, I could see myself on a bar stool now. When I took a drink, the feeling of uselessness and self-pity would disappear. When I took a drink, I would lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in my fellows. When I took a drink, self-seeking would slip away. When I took a drink of alcohol, my whole attitude and outlook upon life would change. When I took a drink of alcohol, fear of people and economic insecurity would leave me. That's where all my money went away. Got spent every bit of it. You need a little economic insecurity. When I took a drink, I would intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle me. When I took a drink, I would suddenly realize that alcohol was doing for me what I could not do for myself. And this is a miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous, that we have taken out. We just can't take out alcohol. You can't take out alcohol. For many years, we tried to quit drinking. But through these first 9 steps, we have a personality change already sufficient to recover from alcoholism. It's not, we say in AA, through as a result of the AA program, not just going to the meetings, but as a result of the AA program, I have had a personality change. I've had a spiritual experience which produced a change in my life. And it isn't necessary for me to drink anymore, already after step 9. Now, of course, if we had these things, this is a great place to be. For the first time, as we experience these things, and I remember, it isn't a bang, but I remember over a period of short time after working the steps, over a period of weeks right on, I would experience a few of these things in my life. And I was able to comprehend the word serenity. The first time I really, before when I went to the meeting, serenity was something they talked about. I didn't know much about it. Serenity is something you have to experience. No one can explain to you what it is. If we could explain to an alcoholic what serenity was, we'd have a line from here to the freeway. It's something you have to experience. And as a result of these steps, we'll begin to experience these things. It's great. And it would be good, and we go into this new life, and it's hard for us. We can't become complacent and stop here. And it's better than anything we've ever had, but there's a lot more to this. The program says we must grow, must continue to grow. So the next 3 steps are going to be a program of, once we complete these 9 steps, then we have a program of continuous growth. And we'll begin next week with step 10, which is going to show us how to have a daily program of growth. We're not maintain, because we can't maintain the human life. It's a very complicated thing. We're either going to get better or get worse. So the name of the game is continuous growth, and we'll begin next week in step 10. And we'll work through these steps and to see how we continue to grow in the 4th dimension.